Hi Anderson astronauts. Today is Tuesday and this is story number 16. I'm very happy to see you and I'm thinking of you, and I've had a chance to talk with quite a few parents and students, and it just is really good to hear your voices on the phone. If you feel like calling me, you can always call me. Today we're going to read a story about the giant saguaro. But first I have a couple of things that I want to tell you. If you have questions about where to find your assignments online or about how to figure out what the instructions are for math or for reading, have your parents text me or email me and I will help you figure that out. Second of all, you don't have to do all the work. You can pick 1 page a day in math, 1 page in reading, or do 30 minutes of Lexia each day, and that is perfectly fine. Then we'd love to see a photo of you, we'd love to see a video of you, and you can share what you're doing with us, teachers. It means a lot to us. Okay, so today this story is about a really cool place, Arizona. Did you know that Arizona is right smack in the middle of the Sonoran Desert? The Sonoran Desert is the largest desert that has saguaro cactuses in the entire world. It's the only place where these saguaros, the big, tall, thick-skinned cacti, live. And they're very special to our state. But the Sonoran Desert is not just in Arizona. It goes all the way down into Mexico. Let's see if I can get this a little closer to you. So you can see the Sonoran Desert goes all the way down south into Mexico, and it's the hottest desert in Mexico. And then it goes clear over here into California, and it crosses into part of California. But most of all, it's right here in Arizona, where many of our saguaro cactuses grow. So, boys, what little critters do you see running around outside in our desert? What plants do you see with flowers blooming? Did you know you live in the coolest place on earth where you can find saguaro cacti? Saguaros grow right here in the Sonoran Desert. So, as we read today, and something that's going to happen soon is you'll notice outside that these saguaros, they start blooming in May and June. So starting about in the next 2 weeks, you might see flowers on some of these cactus. And take a picture if you see one. The Seed and the Giant Saguaro by Jennifer Ward, illustrated by Mike K. Ranger. This book was written in 2003, 17 years ago, boys and girls. This is the giant saguaro. This is the fruit that grew on the giant saguaro. Some of you will recognize those. You've seen them on the ground. This is the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry that grew on the giant saguaro. This is the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry that grew on the giant saguaro. Look, I think you can see the clue of what's coming next. Do you know what that's called? It's called a roadrunner. There's the pack rat. This is the bird that raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. Here's the coyote that quickly dashed, that followed the bird that raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. These are the clouds that rumbled and flashed above the coyote that quickly dashed, that followed the bird and raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. There's our Sonoran Desert. And this is the rain that tumbled down, that came from the clouds that rumbled and flashed, above the coyote that quickly dashed, that followed the bird and raced on the ground, that followed the bird that raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. It's a sequence, for those of you who know what sequencing is. This page has no words. I wonder who is going to eat who. This is the earth, all moist and brown, soaked by the rain that tumbled down, that poured from the clouds that rumbled and flashed, above the coyote that quickly dashed, that followed the bird that raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. These are the seeds, so black and tiny, that sunk in the earth, all moist and brown, soaked by the rain that all tumbled down, that poured from the clouds that rumbled and flashed, above the coyote that quickly dashed, that followed the bird that raced on the ground, that chased the snake that slid with no sound, that trailed the pack rat that ran in a hurry and carried the fruit with a great deal of worry, that grew on the giant saguaro. And this is the cactus, new and spiny, that grew from a seed so black and tiny. Because of the pack rat that stole the fruit, that dropped the seed that slowly took root. Boys and girls, that little pack rat took the seed, and those little tiny black parts went out and got roots growing into the ground, and it created a new saguaro. And it grew to a giant saguaro. Now, here is your task. See if you can find out how long it takes for a baby saguaro to grow into a giant saguaro. How many years? Take a guess and text me or email me, or write a picture, write it on a piece of paper and take a photo. Hint, there's a timeline at the bottom of this book. You can push pause and see if you can figure out how many years it takes to get from here, a tiny cactus, to a giant cactus. Here are our critters from the desert, and Also, if you've ever seen a desert critter, you can feel free to share that with me as well. I love you, boys and girls. Always a hint behind me of the next story to come.